Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the Alicorn Leadership Summit 2020. I'm Rochelle D'Souza, and I lead investments as a principal for a mid-market private equity fund called Lighthouse. I've been an ambassador of WinPE since its inception and proud to welcome you to the first of the 3 power-packed sessions to celebrate WinPE's one-year anniversary coming February. You must be wondering what an Alicorn is. Well, the Alicorn takes its reference from about 5,000 years ago. Sumerian frescoes used to be adorned with a twin-winged mare with a horn, depicting goodness. This rare, mythical, magical creature has now come to represent female vision, strength, determination, and leadership. Women who have broken the glass ceiling and achieved triumphant heights. Today's panel celebrates these Alicorns. Before I introduce the panel, let me take a few minutes to talk about WinPE. What started as an idea and a vision in the mind of one is now the platform endorsed by leading global and regional investing firms. A lot of us would have had these experiences of being the only woman in a boardroom, a leadership team, investing teams, so on and so forth. The number of women partners and women in senior roles at private equity and venture capital funds is abysmal in India and globally. WinPE at its core aims to drive this intuitive and yet a powerful change in the way the investment industry thinks about nurturing talent and fostering an environment that is diverse. You convert intent into accountable action. These changes happen over several years, and WinPE will be there at the forefront. I look forward to celebrating our 10-year anniversary with completely transformed statistics. WinPE was founded by Nupur Garg. Nupur is a leading investor in private equity and venture capital and an expert advisor to large institutional investors. She serves as an independent member of the investment committees of NIIF, Fund of Funds for Startups, managed by SIDBI, and the Dutch Good Growth Fund investment funds mandate, and as an independent director on several boards. What an accomplishment. Nupur was listed among Forbes India Women Power Self-Made Women 2020, among India's top 100 women in finance in 2019, and awarded the Women Entrepreneur Empowerment Award in 2020, and the Business Excellence and Innovative Best Practices Academia Award in 2019. That's so many accolades together. In her prior life, Nupur was the regional head for IFC, private equity funds. That's where actually I met Nupur during my investment career. I invite Nupur, the founder of WinPE, to talk about the progress of the various initiatives under WinPE's banner over the course of 2020. There is so much to celebrate. We have been able to pack a punch despite a somber 2020. And Nupur is here to share all about it. Welcome, Nupur.
Thank you, Rochelle. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we kickstart the Alicorn Leadership Summit to mark our first anniversary. WinPE was launched earlier this year in Feb 2020 as a catalytic platform to drive the conversation on gender diversity and to convert this conversation into positive and tangible action. It is the latter that we pursue aggressively, for we believe that the time for conversations has passed. It is time to act. At the core of WinPE's approach are 3 fundamental pillars, our 3 E's. The first is to engage with firms and decision makers to drive sustainable and long-term transformation in the workplace. We are privileged to have members, we call them our partners, who are passionate and committed to the cause of gender diversity and who believe in moving beyond the tokenisms. For our member firms, it is not about hiring a female associate to check the box or about showcasing the only senior woman they have. Yes, All of this is definitely a part of it. Though we have some firms that joined us even when they did not have a single woman on their teams. But for each of our partners, this is about their deep belief in the need for diverse talent and in building their firms and teams with merit and only merit as the focus. Our partners meet every quarter to discuss the action they are taking to build diversity, all the way from hiring from a diverse talent pipeline to supporting career progression for women, pay parity, investing in women-led businesses, supporting investee companies in building diversity, right up to focusing on metrics and measurement. This is real work being done, and we are incredibly proud to be catalyzing this. As I see it, you have to walk the talk, and that is what each of our partner firms is doing. Our second and third pillars are focused on empowering women in the ecosystem and enhancing the participation and entry of female talent into the industry. In the past 10 months, we have focused on providing a host of resources for women. We have launched a one-on-one mentorship program, organized 7 training and development workshops, and held 3 career conversations for women who would like to explore investing as a career. Now, each of these initiatives is scheduled quarterly on our calendar. And so, on an average, we end up holding 3 to 4 events every quarter, each event focused on meeting different needs of our constituents. Our partner firms have priority access to all these resources for the benefit of women in their teams, as well as women who are part of their investee companies. And so do the women from the WinP Connect network. A key part of our work has been to celebrate the incredible women who have broken the glass ceiling, bringing their insights to our network, creating role models and motivation for each one of us. It is an honor to get to know these amazing women. Each one of these women is a super achiever, and each one of them is committed to paying forward. Our incredible panel today showcases 4 of these successful leaders. Our journey has been made rewarding thanks to the committed and passionate people, both men and women, associated with WinP. Our incredibly supportive member firms, our 3 advisors, and our ambassadors, the women who volunteer their time for our mission and who are validation for everything that WinP has set out to do. The journey has just started, and I'm excited about all the things we have in store as we turn 1. I thank each one of you for joining us today. Please stay connected with us, leverage our resources, and we look forward to welcoming you back to our events. Enjoy.
Thank you, Nupur. Let me introduce the Alicorns in our midst today. What a privilege. Ankiti Bose. At 23, Ankiti co-founded Zilingo in 2015 with a vision of bridging the technology gap within the fashion and lifestyle supply chain to help small merchants and traders truly poise themselves for digitization. Under her leadership, Zilingo has grown to offices in 8 countries and over 500 employees and raised over $300 million from stellar investors like Temasek, EDBI, Sequoia, Sofina, and notable angels like Grim Draper, Kunal Shah. Ankiti has been featured on the Forbes Asia 30 under 30, a lot of numbers coming out now, Global Fortune 40 under 40, Global Bloomberg 50 lists, and Singapore's 100 Women in Tech list. That's such an accomplishment. Welcome, Ankiti.
Thank you.
Let me move on to the next Alicorn. Neeti is one of the co-founders of Automation Anywhere, a mega unicorn with a valuation of $5 billion. She leads brand and culture strategies across the company. That's the heart and the soul of the company. An avid strategist, she brings over 20 years of business management, marketing, and entrepreneurial experience from a wide variety of industries, including technology, business consulting, and advertising. Neeti thrives on holistically negotiating the continuously evolving character of marketing. She is the company's thought leader and a vocal advocate of bot ethics in a world that is moving decisively towards AI. Welcome, Neeti, and what a privilege to have your company here. Let me move on to the next Alicorn. It just gets better. Vani is the managing director at Kalaarl Capital, an early stage venture capital firm based in Bangalore. She's a renowned investor and visionary known for identifying emerging markets. I've had the privilege to interact with Vani over several conversations. She is committed to the development of entrepreneurs and has deep conviction that Indian companies are poised to become global players. Vani is a technology-focused investor, with many of her investments having now become so successful, validating her aptitude for picking the best young minds and mentoring them to build high-growth enterprises. Some of her notable venture capital successes are very, very known to you. Dream 11, CureFit, Snapdeal, Myntra. Vani is profiled in numerous books and has identified as one of Fortune's most powerful women in business. Welcome, Vani. Let me introduce our next Alicorn, Kirthiga. Kirthiga Reddy brings over 20 years of experience leading technology-driven transformations to her role as an investing partner at SoftBank Investment Advisors. She was the managing director of Facebook India and South Asia for over 6 years, starting as their first employee in India. That's fascinating. Her experiences have spanned over several emerging and high-growth markets like Mexico, Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa, and the Middle East. She's the co-founder of the F7 Seed Fund. She served as chair Stanford Business School Management Board. She's the board member, Ballet and Beyond New York. She serves on the board of directors for Collective Health and WeWork. Kirthiga has been recognized as Fortune India's most powerful women and Fast Company's most creative people in business, among other recognitions. Kirthiga is also the moderator for today's wonderful panel. Welcome, Kirthiga, and what a privilege to have you in our company. Before I hand over to Kirthiga, just wanted to remind all of you watching this event is being live streamed on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can send in your comments live during the session, tweet about it, like it, and also invite your friends to join at any time during the event. I hope you enjoy the panel. Over to you, Kirthiga.
Rochelle, Nupur, thank you. And if you both stay on for a second, Nupur, I just wanted to say that I remember first talking to you when this was truly an idea and a vision in a mind of one, yours. And now we look back on incredible impact, incredible accomplishment, and we're getting ready for your 1-year anniversary. Just congratulations. Congratulations to you, to the entire team, to the entire WinPE ecosystem. I believe I speak for the panel when I say that we are inspired by you. We are deeply committed to this really important mission, and we're all here to support you and the team to dream bigger and go faster. So Nupur, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my end, personally, I am delighted and so excited to kick off the 1-year anniversary celebration with this panel with incredibly bold women, each of whom have carved their own unique path to impact, power, and global success, and really dig deeper into their journeys. And I know the audience is hungry for insights, inspiration, and actionable takeaways. So let's jump in and get started. And we're going to first start with an icebreaker round so that you get to know this incredible panel beyond all the business accomplishments. And the first question is, if you were to wear a t-shirt with one word, just one word for the rest of your life, what would that word be and why? And personally for me, the first word that came to my mind was actually impact. I think it's deeply seeped into me from the focus on impact value at SoftBank. But as I thought a little deeper, I actually would choose the word adventure as that one word on the t-shirt. Life is both short and long in many ways, and it's important to have some fun, take risks, give people chances, take chances. I know if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here in this incredible panel with these incredible women. So that's my one word, adventure. Ankiti, maybe we'll hear from you.
Sure. I think my one word would be underdog.
Underdog. Fascinating. Why?
I think it's the spirit of being an underdog, having the courage to face incredible odds stacked against you, which creates the most amazing outcomes.
Was that a spirit that you acquired once you started your journey, or would you say that that was something that was a key part of your identity?
I think it's a key part of my identity, and I think a lot of women, and I'm sure you'll identify with it, being in the ecosystem that we're in, whether or not we want to be the underdog. In some ways, in most ways, we are.
Well, fascinating. Neeti, why don't we hear from you?
I think, given today's topic and the audience here, the word that comes to mind is woman.
Woman. Why?
I think I'm incredibly proud to be one. I think women can, must, and will, and we see that the women before us and the women who will come after us, and just the amount of incredible work that you see the women of today doing. It's just inspiring. I think just being a woman is amazing. It really is. It's a privilege. It's an honor. I think you can achieve anything.
Well, I fully relate to women. So I look forward to seeing that t-shirt. Vani.
Well, yeah, I had the chance to think for a few minutes here. So I was going to say speak up.
Speak up. Tell us more.
I just think, first of all, I think that I do speak up, but it's acquired. I don't think it was not natural culturally or to my personality. Over years, I've learned to speak up. And even then, sometimes I wonder, should I not? That might surprise most people that know me, but I do. And I observe just through my two daughters and hence the extended young women that I see both professionally and personally, that many times we hold back. And I want to see more women speak up. Speak up just their true voice. That's all. Speak up doesn't have to be rebellion. Speak up doesn't have to be disagreement. Just being comfortable, not going through self-doubt on whether it's relevant, not relevant, to just voice what they think, what they feel, what they want to say.
That's awesome, Vani. And again, I can already tell this is going to be an awesome panel. Vani and I actually know each other for over a decade, and I've enjoyed cheering for all of her Investor Midas Touch awards, in addition to many other awards. Neeti is co-founder Automation Anywhere, which is a SoftBank Vision Fund company, and it's just such a privilege to be able to partner with Neeti and her team. And Neeti and I have partnered on several women's initiatives to develop the women ecosystem here. So again, a privilege to be here on the panel with you. And Ankiti, you were probably in school when I was doing my tenure at Facebook in India. It's just been such a pleasure to get to know you through this panel session. So let's talk business. As we know, this is a kickoff session for the Alicorn Leadership Summit. Alicorns even more rare than unicorns, and we have unicorns and alicorns represented here in both Neeti and Ankiti, and Vani, who has built, sold companies and invested in many unicorns. So as we dig deeper into that idea of a unicorn and an alicorn, I would love to understand, as each of you started your own venture, was the idea always that I'm going to start this company and my end goal and my destination is that I'm going to get to that unicorn status? Who would like to go first?
I can go
All right.
first. I think in our case, it was more, yes, we knew it would be special in the sense of we thought the technology had just unbelievable potential. The idea was to change the world with automation. But whether we thought about it from a unicorn or the growth and the success of it, not so much. I think we just looked at it as we're going to create this technology and this technology is going to change the world. So if that classifies a unicorn, then it was from the get-go. If not, I think it was more the vision of what that technology would do that got us to become a unicorn.
What led you to your entrepreneurial journey, Nathan?
Many things. I think, at least in our case, we were entrepreneurs, I think, in our minds, in our hearts, in the way we worked. And we really wanted to do something. The experience that we had had so far, we were 4 founders, and Mihir and I started it in the beginning. And all of us had come to this Silicon Valley to work, and we'd seen the wonderful technology that's being created here. But we also saw a big hole, I guess, in a way, because we had grown so fast as a world with technology that we had a lot of this, for want of a better word, redundancies that were created that automation could solve. And that automation could then get us to the next level of products and services, innovation, inventions, etc. So that's where we started. We wanted to use or create a platform of technology that would then serve as a catalyst, would allow other technologies to deliver products and services like never before. And the vision was that from day one, and it's still true today.
Fantastic. Ankiti, tell us about your journey.
I think, Kirthiga, the first question that you asked, when we started, did we think that it would become so big? I think, we did start with the vision of doing something massive in a huge industry, right? Fashion and lifestyle, contributes to almost 5% of global GDP, and it's extremely inefficient. We have a lot of tech platforms that take products from the merchants to the consumers, right? We have so many B2C marketing platforms, B2C marketplaces, e-commerce companies, but there isn't anything that really solves for what happens to the product before it gets to the merchant, right? It travels from, it's cotton in a farm somewhere, and then it goes to a mill, and then it goes to a raw material supplier, then it goes to a factory, then it becomes a product, goes to a brand, and so on and so forth. And there's so much inefficiency across that, that when we thought about it, we were just like, this is obviously a very, very big opportunity. And I actually think that, unicorn or any of these sort of tags and labels that we associate with large companies is, it's one thing, but the opportunity is so big that I hope we're not even 1% done at this point, and we have a very long way to go.
That's awesome. It reminds me of signs all across Facebook offices, which literally talks about 1% done. And, even as we reached, 1 billion plus users, the thought was we're 1% done. There is so much more that needs to be done. Yeah. Vani, you have both seen this from the executive operating side as well as from the investing side. Your thoughts on that journey to becoming a unicorn and an alicorn?
I don't do very well with tags generally, because I don't think we walk around every day thinking, oh, I am a millionaire, or I want to become a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever. And if we do, that's how we define our sense of self and self of worth. And our companies are extension of us. So I don't think, first of all, as an entrepreneur, obviously you want to create large companies, and one measure of large is obviously the size of the company and the valuation of the company, market cap as such. And there is too much emphasis on that. I sort of have come to, detest, if I may use that word. And not because it's not a worthy goal, but because it takes up so much of the talking space that we are not talking about how did it impact customers, what difference did it really make in productivity and delight to someone, and so on and so forth. And I'm, an engineer by training, and I always think of myself first as an engineer. So, I like to understand a product before I choose to make an investment. And if I go back to why I started my company when I was younger, it had to do with just wanting to solve a problem, that I saw, and being excited to solve the problem. And of course, building a big company is a worthy goal. But if that becomes the defining point, then we lose track of all the other things that really allow that to make it happen. That's just an end outcome, like a milepost. It's all the rest that really is the most important. What did I discover about myself in this journey is, I think, the ultimate benefit I got as an entrepreneur, knowing that you are more than what you thought at one point you were, or you could be. I think that's very empowering and liberating, and why entrepreneurship is so great. It breaks down all the walls to push you, to persevere and beyond your self-defined limits. And so I think it's important to talk about unicorns, but more important to what is the underlying reason why they got there.
Yeah, very clear themes, very consistent themes across the board. What's the problem we want to solve? What's the impact that we want to have? And certainly, as I think about SoftBank and SoftBank Vision Fund, one of the key pillars we look for is this a bold founder who has a clear understanding of the problem, deep consumer insights, and a differentiated way to solve the problem. Very, very consistent themes. Vani, I want to stay with you. And a question that often comes up is, are entrepreneurs born or made? Your thoughts?
I think they're made. Obviously, there are, benefits of birth that we can't overlook. And I realize that more and more. And benefits of birth doesn't actually have to mean what's obvious. In my case, I think the benefit of my birth has been parents who allowed me the freedom to become whatever I choose to be. I don't remember anyone at home, though I was born in a South Indian, very conservative family where women hadn't really gone to college before and all of that. Despite that, if I said I wanted to do X, my parents never said, you are a girl, you can do it. And I think that is a benefit of birth, the self-confidence that I can be what I want to be. So I know that's not what you exactly probably meant, but everything else is what you learn along the way. No one is born to lead a large company, and all of us can learn what is required. If we have the curiosity, we have the interest. If we really want it, then we learn how to do it. So it's learned. Largely, anything can be learned largely by human will and human choice.
How did you learn, Vani?
Through School of Hard Knocks, that's one. By not giving up, that's two. And by a lot of kind people in my life who decided to really be supportive, believe in me, and give me time when I needed it for many reasons, as mentors, as just a shoulder sometimes that you need, someone to hear you out. And so we do stand on shoulders of others, and it is more available than we give credit for. Of course, we have to seek it, but also, more importantly, we have to be willing to course correct ourselves. We have to be willing to be our best critic and our best, cheerleader. So you have to believe in yourself, but also willing to correct yourself.
Be kind to yourself is, again, a key mantra. Neeti, your thoughts?
I think a little bit, I'm coming from it from a little bit of a different angle. I think you might, whether it's nature or nurture, that's, I think, not the question. The question is, in my mind, an entrepreneur is somebody who is willing to take risks and is willing to fall in love with a problem and not a solution. And so the fact that you fall in love with the problem and you're able to, pivot 18 different ways in order to get to that solution, in order to get the right solution, and to take risks along the way, that's what defines entrepreneurship to me. And now some people are born with it. I think in my mind, I was always an entrepreneur wanting to take the next risk. And there are others I've met who, with experience or with, as Vani put it, by the sum of their actions or the sum of their careers are able to get there. But without those two key elements, in my mind, an entrepreneur is not so much an entrepreneur.
Got it. Neeti, your first entrepreneurial venture?
Many things. I did the lemonade stand, I guess, when I was a kid, but more importantly, the one that made a little bit of money, very little bit of money, was at college. I decided to make little plastic boxes to sell floppy disk holders, and I branded them, and I sold them for a good amount of profit.
That's awesome. The marketing
I wonder how many people out there are thinking, what's a floppy disk?
Right. That ages me too, yes.
Ankiti, any comments on is an entrepreneur born or made?
I think I do think that incredibly challenging circumstances create amazing entrepreneurs. Sometimes sometimes they can be good, sometimes they can be bad. You can have a moment of inspiration, or you can just come from extreme struggle. And then something happens, and then you develop foolish courage, right? Which is I think incredibly important, because if you don't have that foolish courage and pathological optimism, then the odds are so stacked against you as an entrepreneur, women entrepreneur or whatever, it doesn't matter. Even just as an entrepreneur, it's so tough already that you need to sometimes just have that foolish courage and pathological optimism that, I can figure things out no matter how bad they look right now. And sometimes it's, you're born with it. Sometimes these extreme situations, like a superhero or a superheroine, I might say, in most comics, right? They come from an extreme event happens and then they mutate. So I think that can happen too, but there's always an origin story.
I love the foolish optimism, and I often say that when that happens, and you put your bold vision out there, nature almost conspires to make things happen for you, and you definitely want to draw on that forces of nature. Now let's talk about what happens after you're a unicorn. So what happens? I mean, do things suddenly change? Are you thinking about, how are you thinking about growth, profitability, customer acquisition? How do you manage the next phase of growth? Ankiti, do you want to go?
Sure. I think that context matters a lot. Of course, what you're building, what's the market that you're in, how competitive is the space, and therefore, how much leeway you might have in terms of prioritizing growth and marketing spends and market share vis-a-vis profitability and a few other things. For me, it did shift gears a lot. I think that I do think that my job got harder, and the bar is suddenly raised, and that's good, because it keeps you absolutely on your toes. In our case, we started thinking more deeply about long-term profitability. How do you keep growing in a large market while improving the fundamentals of the business, while thinking about the merchants who are so deeply in need of technology to digitize the supply chain. Like this is a real problem in their life, and they can create a lot more value if they are able to do it if we are able to do it for them in a sustainable manner. So I think for us, the context shifted, the bar was raised, and things definitely got more challenging, but in a very exciting way. I felt like we have a larger canvas, more resources to play with. Like, you just have a longer, tougher run, but with better shoes, and you're well equipped with the resources that you need to do so.
Yeah. Ankiti, you went through a very interesting transition with a business where you were a B2C tech platform and then you pivoted to a B2B platform. Talk to us about that transition.
I think somewhere quite early on in our journey, we realized that what we were trying to do, and I'll go back to what Neeti said, which really resonates with me, is that you're married to the problem, not your solution to that problem, right? And the problem we were trying to solve was there are thousands of millions of merchants in Asia. There's so much supply here. Almost all of the fashion and lifestyle in the world originates in Asia in some form, either in the manufacturing or the cotton or whatever. It's completely undigitized. The problem we were trying to solve was helping merchants and businesses digitize and sell online better. The solution that we first came up with was to help them connect with the end consumer. What we realized quickly was that that was being solved really, really well by a range of companies, and there was sufficient capital chasing that part of the opportunity. The part of the opportunity that was not being solved for as well with technology, innovation, and capital was everything that was happening before the product got to the merchant who was then selling it forward. So you're selling it on B2C platforms, or you're selling it on Facebook, Instagram, and so on. But how does the merchant get access to that? And so the problem statement was the same. And what we realized is that we wanted to change our solution to create a more effective one that would be more profitable, more sustainable, and help out the merchants actually much, much more. And then that evolved into, not just do they need sourcing and commerce, but they also need services, and they need software, and they need financing. And really, we kept building a stack, one on top of the other, and we ended up with a large B2B ecosystem with a marketplace at its core. But that's why I say, instead of a pivot, I think like we just evolved, and we kept evolving, and we kept questioning whether our approach and solution was the best for that problem. And that's how we find it easy to say that, maybe I was wrong, and maybe my solution was not the best one for this problem, but let's find the best one and keep iterating to get there. So I really liked what Neeti said about being married to solving the problem and not to your solution.
Yeah, totally. Neeti, your journey, key pivot points, both before the unicorn, after the unicorn.
So ours was a slightly different. We got funding, took funding rather much later on in our journey, almost in year 14, year 15, I guess, at the end of that. So for us, it was a little bit of a coming of age on multiple fronts. I think in a lot of cases, unicorns are born when the technology meets the industry, meets the market demand, meets where finance is willing to fund. And for us, that came at that point. The technology had enough time to mature. Automation is not new, but robotic process automation kind of changed the ballgame a little bit, made it a little bit more, in my opinion, modern. It didn't take 2 years to automate. Just think about the supply chain. Traditional supply chain models to automate would take 2 years. You'd hire 40 developers, and by the time you automate the whole process, the process changed. And really wasn't built for today's generation. So we were on a mission, I guess, from a technology perspective to change that. And we had done that. We had good validation in the market, but the mainstream consumption of it, I think, came about at that time. The technology matured, Main Street consumption started, finance started, and we took our first round of funding to grow the hell out of it. And that's when we went into super hyper growth and where we are today. So it was a little bit of a different journey. And when we did take funding and we saw that hyper growth, it moves. Every day is like a year's worth of work. There's so much happening on all fronts, markets, analysts, customers, partners, investors, the board, and not to mention your own employee base, right, which is growing like super fast. And from a culture perspective, it's also a great challenge to keep the culture and the brand where we wanted it to be. So interesting problems, and like children, I think at different stages you have different problems, but you embrace them and you deal with them.
With every company that we work with, the next 6 months is always the most important 6 months for the company for different reasons. You get through that 6 months, and then there's the next 6 months where it's really important for some reason. This is truly a marathon, not a sprint. Vani, as you hear these different stories, you have, and the benefit from having seen this, and actually all of the leaders on this panel have that very global perspective. How do you think about location differences? Is there this only in Silicon Valley phenomena? How are you seeing India grow? How should one think about the location aspect of entrepreneurship?
Kirthiga, I moved to Silicon Valley serendipitously, say 30 years ago. And I believe that that was genesis for me to be entrepreneur. Like I said, I don't think I was born entrepreneur. Under different circumstances, different stimulus, I don't know what the path not taken of my life would have been. So Silicon Valley for me made a difference. And what was the difference is really the inspiration that's all around you, the possibility, hopefully my daughters see Ankiti and say, oh, if she could do it, I can do it. Or, other women look at Neeti and say, well, I can have it all, unicorn company and family. And through whatever mechanisms we can relate to someone and say, oh, I can do it. And that inspiration, I feel we all need to unlock our potential. And in the Valley, I felt I was in that environment. For me, in India, I was not, right? That could have been just my circle, whatever. But it was also the period of when we are talking about. Today, it is very different. So, environments that can inspire you, environments that can nurture you, meaning you need the ecosystem. We say it takes a village to raise a child. Why does it take any less to create a company? And that could be investors, that could be mentors, that could be the people you need to hire into your management team, your co-founders, all of that, right? And customers, not to mention, right? So you have to be in markets where somebody wants to buy your product. So I think the ecosystem makes a very large difference. And we know this, right? I mean, Jack Ma made a statement that I thought was interesting. His father said to him, if you were born, just a couple of decades ago, your thoughts would have been seditious and you would have been put in a camp or whatever, right? And that's true, right? So, and so I think environments do make a difference. I think India has come a long way in the last decade. I think we have a very vibrant entrepreneurial environment. And much like in US, Valley is different. And people have tried to recreate Valley in so many places, though it has become more. It has taken 4 decades and it's not that easily replicable, right? India too, it's the same thing. So I do think environments make, and location and access makes a difference.
In so many things that you mentioned, Vani, resonate with me. One of, I think, my biggest regrets looking back was, I think I was in high school when someone said, oh, come build a hospital administration software for us. But my only context was my dad, who had been in service. And so I almost dismissed that as an opportunity. And again, fast forward a few decades now, it is just so inspiring and encouraging to be in the center of all of this entrepreneurial activity. So just truly inspiring. I'm going to pick up on one phrase that you said. As you said, I look to Neeti and I say, I hope people see that you can do it all. Neeti, can you do it all? And can we do it all?
Of course you can.
All right.
You have to believe it, and I think if anybody can, a woman can, is how I put it.
That should be the T-shirt we all wear.
Yes.
No, I think why do we have to choose? I think there are different parts of being a woman. We have great intelligence, great empathy, great motherhood, great wife material, great sister material, great daughter material in us. And I think we should leverage them all. Yes, we have to find our own balances and do it in our way with our circumstances. I've been lucky. I have 3 children. I work with my husband, so I get to see him 24 hours a day. And I get to run a company, but more importantly, I get to do the work I really love, which is brand and culture. And so, yes, I think women can have it all. And I am not the first. There have been thousands of women who have been my inspiration, and I won't be the last. There will be 20,000 women after us who will do even more than us, just because we have helped pay it forward, I think. And that's why this is a great responsibility. Women need to see other women doing it, know that it's okay to do it, okay to want it all, and then work towards it. I think that was lacking for a little while, but I think we see it more and more now.
It is so well said. I often talk about the superpower of the and versus the tyranny of the or. And while it's not always possible to do the and, more often than not, if you just try to think of that and, it's possible. I had my child while I was doing my MBA. I've been volunteering since my daughter was 3 months old, and they've just grown up thinking that that's the way of life. So beautifully said.
Kirthiga, I'd like to add one thing there, just a quick note. Just as a point of, I delivered my first child 2 months after we started Automation Anywhere. So think about it. I was 7 months pregnant, and we decided to go for this absolutely superbly hardworking time of our lives with a child. And I brought my child to work. She was often under the desk, and she was often anybody I could find. I would basically, say, hey, can you hold her for like 15 minutes while I make a call to a customer? But my point is, it's doable. And knowing it's doable for women is the biggest challenge, I think. And that's what we need to pay forward.
It reminds me, Kirthiga, not to take your questions off track, but Neeti triggered something. And in fact, I remember sharing this story with Nupur once. And I was foolishly trying to fundraise when I was pregnant with Sandhya, and I didn't know that it would be a problem. It didn't occur to me at all. I can be very oblivious to signals that I don't want to see, which is my strength and also my handicap. So it took lots of venture pitches. Then someone out of kindness told me, look, and this is also a different time, maybe they won't say that today, but said, you really expect a venture capitalist to invest in a pregnant woman? I was like, oh, okay. I didn't see that as a problem, but I can see why it would be a problem. You might worry, would I come back to work? Not, and you have to write, millions of dollars into it. So I'm not offended by that, but just that, when she said, pregnancy, it sort of brought that memory back up. It's a whole different conversation for a different time. In your life journey, as in personal life, and how you marry that into your professional life, what are some of those things that are gotchas,
So many stories, and we'll dig deeper. But these are all such inspiring examples that we truly can do it all. We're going to start taking questions from the audience for like a final 10 minutes or so. One question before we go there. There was a Fortune article last week talking about female founders under fire. Are women in the startup world being unfairly targeted? And there have been a spate, at least in the US, of very successful women CEOs who stepped back from the companies as their companies continued to grow. Reactions, thoughts, and how is it that we can nurture the very rare Alicorn community?
I can go first. I think just reacting to what's happening in the US, and I think it's happening broadly everywhere. Is that just like a few years ago, it was almost unthinkable to have women who got VC and private equity funding. And even now, I think it's 3-4% of the total that even goes to women. Even fewer of them make it to a scale where it becomes larger, and it's not about proving product market fit anymore. It's clear that it works, and it needs to go somewhere bigger. And I think what tends to happen is, like any other situation that women have faced before, and like thousands of women have faced before us. The bar is higher for women. I do think that the bar is higher for women to prove that they can do, they're up to the task. And I think several of the biases that just exist, not just in the minds of men, but also women, also other women. It's just, I think, where we all have this internalized misogyny at different levels that we can sometimes acknowledge, we sometimes don't acknowledge, that plays into how we are reacting to women in positions of extreme power and what we think they can and can't do. For example, think about raising large amounts of capital, or I don't know, changing direction, changing course of a really large company, executing a very large layoff, or doing something that's extreme in a position of power, a woman is questioned far more, and that's what I mean by the bar is higher, right? And you have to be very sure that you can defend those decisions less than, I would say, sometimes a man has to. And I think the real way, the only way that this can actually shift and change over a period of time is as we have more women in positions of power, so that this doesn't feel like such an anomaly. And to do that, we have to do what we are doing today, and we have to do things like WINP and so on, so that we can have more women founders, women CEOs, women LPs, women GPs, so that the decision making is, it's normal that this is being led by women and this is being done by women. Because for the same set of decisions, a man is today not really penalized at all. So I think that's where I'm at on this whole thing.
Yeah, and Ankiti, where do you find your community, like your source of support, inspiration, mentorship, coaching?
To be honest, I think, and I think Vani said this some time back, I've raised my hand and asked for help and asked for mentorship. And just because there are so many more men in tech and men in investing, many of them or most of them have been men, and most people are willing to help. Most people are very helpful, actually, in general. And when you bring to them your issues, they're there to support you. But how do we create an ecosystem where there are just more women available to help other women? It's easier to be inspired by role models who look like you, who have had a similar struggle and path and story like you. And I don't think we have enough of those. So it'll take a while. But for me personally, I did raise my hand and get a lot of help from male investors, mentors, and allies, right? What we call allies. So I think that's the way it has been so far. Hopefully, we'll be able to shift that for the next generation of women.
Neeti, your thoughts on both, the bar for a male founder versus a female founder, as well as a question that has come up from the audience is, where do you seek your community, your mentorship, coaching from?
So I think where founders are concerned, I think when you reach a critical stage, founders just have a tough time all around, because the challenges are different, the way you approach them is different, the people you're accountable to are different, and the responsibilities are really different. And so I think that's not so much a man-woman thing, but I think women founders do have it a little bit harder, because you have the traditional challenges that a woman faces at the executive level. One thing that I do find that I think I ask people to do a lot is, if you know women in senior leadership, be sponsors to them. And sponsors are a little bit different than mentors. It's actually giving them a heads up to say, I believe in you and I agree with what you're saying, and bringing up your solutions as a part of that dialogue. That's lacking. And I think where female founders are concerned, that's why you see them step back, because if you're the only one saying something in a room again and again and again, and nobody else is backing you up, that's a problem. And at some point you will step back. So I do see that. I do see that changing also. I think people are getting more cognizant of it. Women are speaking up more about it, and we can't do enough for that. As to where I get my mentorship and sponsorship, I'm with Ankiti on this. Ask for help. Most women don't. Step up, and if somebody says no, don't let it put you down. Find another person and another person and another person. You want it, go get it.
Yeah. I often talk about how people love to give advice. They just love to do that, right? So just go ask. People love to give advice. There was a question on, who has influenced you? But before we get there, and Shutapa, I promise I'll get there in a few seconds. Vani, I'd love to hear from you. You see men and women coming to you with ideas. What do you see in terms of differences, similarities, or actually more importantly, what advice would you give women founders?
Well, I'll go back to what I started with, speak up, and like I said, oftentimes they're a lot more reticent. I don't think it's under confidence. I think it's just the communication style, and the system today rewards certain behavior and this rewards certain behavior, right? So I'll go back to actually not even at the founder level. My first job in US, I didn't fill out a self-evaluation form. That felt somehow, coming from a South Indian family, first job, in US, that you shouldn't be bragging about what you did. It's for others to give you accolades and not for you to say what you've done. And there's a part of me that is still like that, because you don't suddenly become 100% a different person. So but and I got like a 3% raise, and I had really worked hard. I thought I was. And when I went and talked to my manager, what did you do? I mean, so it's a very different culture and a system. So you have to kind of fit into that, right? Now, when you are a founder and you're looking for venture capital funding, or you're looking to bring other people on board, you can be quiet. You don't have to change your personality. You can be a quiet leader. There are many kinds of leaders, but how can you be effective in making your point? I think that's very important. I'm not saying you have to be just extrovert and just mega talk, right? And that can also get on people's nerves, but you have to be authentic. So I don't want to dissuade anyone from being authentic, but figure out within that how you fit into the system, which I think is very important. And if you're not assertive to make your point, if you can't ask for what you want, or find that balance of saying your own self-worth, how you are willing to do that. Would you let somebody take credit for your project? I mean, we know through history, great scientists, great writers, women have not been given the due, and others have taken credit for their work, right? I mean, so much exists in terms of proof of that, and it's ongoing today too, right? So I would just say I actually don't like this men versus women. I like what Ankiti said. Being entrepreneur is hard enough, whether you're a man or a woman. It's just that women are in the crosshair because there are so few of them in this role and as role models, and hence I think those that are there have, I think, a higher responsibility today to pay forward for the path and by sort of making the path more clearer. But for ones that are walking on that path today, the path is not laid out like a straight line, and you have to figure out what is expected of you, what is needed of you in order to, move forward, right? And how you fit that into sort of your core true self.
No, thank you, Vani. So I know we have like a flurry of questions coming in. Maybe we'll take 2 or 3 more, and then we'll close this again. We could go on for hours with this fascinating panel. Neeti, maybe question for you. Who has influenced you and been an instrumental part of where you are today?
I would say 2 sets. One is my parents. I think I was brought up knowing I could do anything. And I think that's key. I think we should bring that to our children. And 2, I would say my husband. I worked with me here for the last 17 years. I never thought I'd marry a man who I'd work with for 17 years, but I did. And he's been my greatest advocate, of course, but he's pushed me. When I would have taken a back seat, he's said, I'm here with you. We have 3 children. We have a company. We have everything going on, but we'll do it. And that support has been awesome.
Choose your partners carefully. That is the most important career lesson. Ankiti, how do you uplift other women in your organization and networks? You're on mute, or we can't hear you.
My bad. I was on mute. Sorry. No, I think that's a very important question that probably warrants a whole different 1-hour discussion. But it's extremely important to I think understand as leaders that the way you mentor men and the way you mentor women has to be a little different, and we have to take the context and the social and cultural context around where we are doing that also into account as we do that. Help them speak up, help them be more confident, and not wait for them to be 100% sure of something before speaking up and asking for it, because men do it at 60% usually, I've seen, and women wait to be 100% right before even daring to do it. So I think it's just nuanced, and we have to acknowledge that it's nuanced nuanced and different when you coach women and then take that path.
Well, fantastic. They say that there's a special place in hell for women who don't help women, the importance of doing so. Vani, you get the last question. Was your leadership ever questioned because you are a woman?
Gosh, all the time.
Does it get easier as you get more
before and now? No. I think the more you're in a spotlight, I think the more you are under a microscope, and I think you just have to accept it and not let it get to you as much. You may be questioned, but so what? I mean, the most important questions are the ones that you ask yourself, and the most important answers are the ones you give yourself, and the accolades that matter are the ones that you feel in your heart, and so that you value the most, right? I've been touched by a very junior employee who may say how much they learned from me, have not even having reported to me, and that influence, and maybe someone who does report to me who feels that I haven't been as supportive enough or whatever. I think every day we have to learn to be our best self, and then also learn to put the day aside, and just is the recipe for life, at least how I apply every day, because there's so much out there of expectation of what you haven't done that it's easy to lose track of what you have done, right? You're going to make somebody unhappy all the time. That may be at home, that may be at a workplace, that may be wherever. Philosophical as I'm getting with time, I feel I do the best I could. What more can you ask of yourself, and that's, I think, important. But I don't think it gets easier as you get older. I just think you have a perspective of handling it, that you don't allow it to get to you. So the sooner you learn the tools and ways in which you really can work on your dreams without being distracted by what others are telling you you're doing or not doing, that's better, because you'll find your purpose and happiness, and that's really why we are all here anyway.
Well, so awesome. And I know we can go on again for hours and hours with all the questions coming in, but all good things have to come to a close. So I just want to say...
Yes, but not before you answer a question, Kirthiga. You got to answer this question on, I mean, you should be a speaker here as much as any of us, or more so. But, who has influenced you? And how do you feel about this women, in this under fire?
So who has influenced me? So many people, right? Whether it's, again, my parents, my husband, who, again, believes in me more than often I believe in myself, my children, who one day they had an assignment where my daughter was supposed to answer the question of who inspires you. And she said, okay, again, this is like a fifth grader. She said, I don't need to seek inspiration from anyone. I'm going to seek my inspiration from within, right? And this was like a fifth grader, right? So I get my inspiration again from my family, my colleagues. Learning comes from so many different places. Inspiration comes from so many different places. I also believe that, again, a woman can aspire to do everything a man can and more. It is harder, and we just have to acknowledge that. And even more so, huge cheers and kudos to all the women on this panel, all the women listening, and all the women sponsoring this event. I have a very simple framework for mentoring, coaching, paying it forward that I will close with as we close the panel, which is, I have this visual of someone walking with people in front of them, with people besides and people behind. And from people in front, it's an opportunity to seek inspiration. From people by your side, you seek companionship. From people behind, you pay it forward, lend them a helping hand. And the beauty of this picture is, no matter where you are, how old you are, what stage of life you're in, that picture is always true. So I'd love for everyone who's listening to think about who they can speak seek inspiration from, and I certainly seek a lot of inspiration from the women I'm seeing here on the screen and so many other men and women. And I hope I'm a good companion to many, and also am very committed, like everyone on this panel, to paying it forward. So with that, Vani, thank you for the question. And just a huge thank you to all of you for your insights, your inspiration, your wisdom. I am actually going to close as I hand this over back to Rochelle to say thank you with a quote from our Vice President-elect in the United States, Kamala Harris, who said, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to miss a single word. She said, "Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourself in a way that others might not see you simply because they've never seen it before." With that, Rochelle, back to you.
That was a wonderful visual, Kirthiga, in terms of being at that position to be someone's companion, to seek inspiration, and to pay it forward. Beautiful visual, but at the same time, I want you to visualize if this was a normal year, we would all be standing and giving you a wonderful ovation and congratulating, because this panel was wonderfully inspiring to everyone who was listening. So thank you so much, dear panelists, for your inspiring words and just giving those nuggets of wisdom, something for me to take home and something for everybody to take home. One is, there is no price for perseverance and determination. And I think it's always okay to ask for those shoulders, to ask for help and to know that it's doable and to know that it's okay to want it all. I think that's self-reassuring. And at the core of it all, I think this is the power of WinPE as a platform to inspire women who are watching this, men who are watching this, all alike, in terms of what WinPE can provide. It is that shoulder. Audience, this is not just one panel. We are coming up with powerful panels in January and February to celebrate the anniversary with similar action-packed, inspiring stories. Stay tuned to WinPE's website for all the information. We're very active on Twitter. We're very active on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So watch out for the window. Again, thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, WinPE. And thank you, audience, for your wonderful time. Pleasure. Thank you.